Well, hello YouTubers. Hopefully everybody's doing pretty good out there. Well, today is a big day for me. I've got some pretty decent tires on the front of my vehicle, and I noticed it's out of alignment, so I'm going to show you how to do a do-it-yourself alignment, just enough to get you to the alignment shop by using just a ball of twine and a couple of jacks. Alright, there she sits, my 2000 Expedition. I love her. She gets almost 20 miles a gallon, 4.6 now. Just turned over to 140,000 miles. The problem I'm having is when I go down the highway, my steering wheel is actually turning to the right. But if I go out here and look at the tire is actually pointing to the right, but it's pointing way too far in. If we go over to the other side and look, the passenger side tire is pointing way too far in, so basically the toe in is too much on this side. Now I've come inside and I've put my steering wheel straight like it should be. Now let's go outside and look at the tires and see which way they're actually pointing. But as you see here, the driver's side tire, well, it's pointing to the left, which means it has too much toe out. And the tire on the passenger side, well, it's actually pointing out. It's got too much toe out. I don't know if you can see that, how it's kind of pointing to the right. So we're going to fix this. This alignment on this thing is pretty much a mess. So we are going to do our best to get it back pretty close so you can actually get it to an alignment shop and have it professionally done. Alright, now before we start doing this, there's something here we have to talk about that nobody else talks about when they're doing these do-it-yourself front-end alignments. We have to check both wheels on the front to see if there's any bad components. There could be a lower ball joint, there could be an upper ball joint that's bad, could be a tie rod end, or even a wheel bearing. So we have to jack the front end of this vehicle up, shake that tire, make sure there's nothing bad, and we need to do the passenger side. So if you have a vehicle, a car, or a truck, I suggest you do the same thing. If you don't do this and you find out you actually have a bad ball joint, well, that is going to ruin your day and you're going to be doing this for nothing. So please do this first. Alright, now I got my wheel up in the air, so I'm going to go over here and shake it. And we're looking for loose things. We're listening for noise, clicking noises. And that seems to be pretty good. So the next thing we want to do, if you have a pipe and it's up in the air, go ahead and stick the pipe down below on the bottom of the tire and pick up on this tire and see if there's any noise. And we're good there. Now if you have a buddy with you, have him look up under there, and also if you see a bad ball joint, he can tell you right away that it's bad. But usually you can hear it and it'll make a noise if it's bad. Okay, now after we've gone ahead and checked the ball joints and stuff and make sure the tire is pretty tight, next thing we want to do is go ahead and take this tire off, because this tip here is going to save you a lot of grief down the road, especially if you have a low profile car that you may have to pull the front end up on ramps. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get this tire off, the center cap off, and on this Expedition, this takes a 13/16 socket to get these lug nuts off, and I always use a breaker bar, because it seems to be a lot easier to do and take off. And of course I had to lower my tire down with the jack so it would give me enough grip here to turn these nuts. Alright, now we got the tire ready to come off, and it's now off. And now we have access into the outer tie rod end, the inner tie rod end, and also the upper ball joint. And the lower ball joint we can check out, and also you can check out some of the other bushings here, especially the ones you can see, to make sure they're not wore out. Okay, now one of the things we want to do here, and this is the reason we took off our wheel, is this will make your life a lot easier, especially before you have to pull your front end up on a pair of ramps or something if you have a low profile vehicle. But for me, I'm lucky, I'll be able to do my alignment with all four wheels on the ground because of the excellent clearance. Take some oil and go ahead and spray your nuts on your tie rod ends and your inner tie rod ends, and we're going to loosen these up a little bit here. We're going to let this soak a little bit, and what we got to do, we got to loosen this nut up right here and this nut here, and this will let us turn this, this will allow us to turn this center link, and by turning this counterclockwise or clockwise, this will make the front of this tire either toe out or toe in, and this is how we are going to start our alignment. So let me go ahead and break these loose. Well, what I'm going to do now is go ahead and let this oil soak. I'm going to put the tire back on and go ahead and do the other side, because once I get all four wheels back on the ground, I can still slide up under here and break these loose to save us a little bit of time. So go ahead and grease up your nuts on your tie rod ends here, your inner and outer tie rod ends. Now some vehicles only have one nut, And then you have to turn the inner tie rod in to make the wheel come and go like that. So I'll go ahead and do the other side, and we'll go ahead and I'll do some things here to make this video a little faster. Then all we really have to do is go ahead and start doing an alignment. But make sure you get you some oil, PVC blaster, and go ahead and soak these nuts up here if you have two of these like I do. And this will make it a little bit easier to break loose. Okay, at this point I've checked the driver's side tire, and I've checked the passenger side tire. I've tuck it up in the air and shuck it, put a pipe under it, and everything looks good. And now I have loosened up my tie rod ends, nuts, and the center link, which is right here. Now here's a tip: if you can't break those loose, those little nuts there, get you a propane torch. These things do miracles. A little bit of heat will break those loose, and you can see with this oil I have on there, I can turn this by hand, which is great. Now, like I said, some vehicles only have one nut where you can turn the inner tie rod in, and this will allow it to spin in and out to the outer tie rod in, and this will allow you to adjust this wheel. So I've got this side done, the driver's side, I should say. And I got my two nuts here loose for the outer tie rod in and a center drag link here. I believe that's what that's called. And this center piece here is what I will be turning. I'll be putting a wrench on it. I will be turning this. This will pull the tie rod in or out. This will allow us to get toe in or toe out. And also when we're done, we just simply tighten these nuts up and we move on to the other side. But before we do that, let's just talk about one quick thing here before we start this alignment. The fun begins. Okay, and just a quick reminder, make sure you have the right tools and the right size. Those nuts on that tie rod in there were pretty big. I did not have a wrench big enough. I had to use this big old thumb wrench, and I'm using a 13/16 on that center link to turn it to get the toe in and toe out so we can start this alignment. Now, one other thing I wanted to kind of mention here, please, if you're here, to leave negative comments and to be condescending to others who are trying to learn and to do maybe this do-it-yourself alignment, I will delete your comment. Your comments are welcome if you have advice, tips, and also experiences in doing these alignments. I will delete your comment if you are condescending to other people or hateful. But if you're here for the entertainment value, hey, give me a thumbs up and I'll do my best. Alright, so let's get to it. Let's go ahead and get this thing lined up. Okay, now the fun begins. So everybody has jack stands, right? You can use jack stands, a piece of wood, you can be creative, and also a ball of twine. And I almost forgot a tape measure to help us out. Alright, now the first thing we want to do is go ahead and set our jacks up in front of the tire. On the outside of the tire, just kind of line the jack up a little bit, and you can see it's pretty much right on the outside. It's kind of hard to see because of the shadow. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. Put your jack stand, whatever you got, just stick it in front of the wheel. The idea is we want to get the string about halfway across the side of that tire. So we're going to start here. We're going to take our string, twine, whatever you got, wrap it around the first jack. Now we're going to head to the back. So we're just simply going to go all the way to the back. Now we're going to take this string, set it about halfway around that tire, and we're going to head over to the other side of the tire. Now we've got our string pretty much right across the center of the tire on the back driver's side. Same thing with the passenger side here. We've got it pretty much right across the center of the hubcap. Same thing for the front right passenger side. We'll adjust this a little bit here, and we'll get that string pretty much right across the middle there. Okay, now we've got the string set up from the passenger side here. And on the driver's side, you can see the string is all the way back to the back tire. Now what we need to do is go to the back tire. This back tire, we need this string just barely touching the front of this tire, right about there. And I mean the front, meaning this is the front of the vehicle, right about here. And on the passenger side, do the same thing here. We make sure this string is barely touching there. Now I have a little bit of clearance there, so the way we adjust that is we go to the front, you go back up front and adjust your jack. You may have to move it in maybe just a ½ inch or so. And when you do that, that'll put that string in the far back there, pretty close to that back tire. So I moved it in a little bit. Let's go see what it looks like now. And I am really happy with that. It is just barely touching the tire there. So that's what we want. Now we go to the front. We check our steering wheel. Let's get it in the straight position, pretty much where you want it when you're driving. That looks pretty good there. Now I know a lot of guys will tie belts and put their seat belts and try to lock it down. A lot of times if you turn the key off, it'll end up locking like that or like that, but I just typically leave the key on, and not on the run position, but enough to come in here and turn this steering wheel a little bit, because when we're doing adjustments out there, this steering wheel is going to turn just a little bit, so we got to come back in and keep checking it. Now after we got our steering wheel pretty much straight where we want it, we got our string all the way around the back tires here. We're barely touching all the way around on this side. And on this side, the string is barely touching right there and all the way to the front jack. Now we are ready to start making some, taking some measurements here and doing some adjustments. Okay, now with the string pretty much set up where you want it around the entire vehicle and the jack's properly set where you want it, we now take our tape measure here and we go up here and we start measuring. And I usually like to use the rim, and we've got about an inch and let's say an inch and an eighth here, and right here we have an inch. So this tells me that the back of this tire has to come out a little bit. So now what we're going to do is go underneath, and now we'll go ahead and turn our center link. In my case, this is what will adjust my toe in, and I need the back of the tire to come out just a little bit, so we'll go ahead and turn this so we get it just right. After turning that one revolution, I want to come back in and make sure my wheel is still straight. And now we'll come out here with a tape measure and we'll see if this is any straighter. That was only one turn, by the way, so we've got about an inch there. And on the back where I needed to come back out, that worked out really, really good. Wow, that is right on. So we got about an inch there and about an inch there. So this side is pretty much lined up. So let's go to the other side and see what we got. Now we're over here on the passenger side, and we'll check the back side of this tire on the rim here, and it looks like we got about an inch, a little less than an inch. And on the front, wow, we got an inch and a half. So this tire needs to come out, so we need to do toe out, and you can see the gap here in the string. Apologize for the lighting and the shadows out here. And you can see it's right against the back, so let's go under there and turn that tie rod in. So on this side, I need to go toe out, so I am going to go 2 turns with this, and hopefully this will get me pretty close. Alright, we'll come back to the passenger side here. We'll check this again, and we got about an inch and a 1/16 there, and on the front where we needed the tire to come out, the toe out, we got about an inch and a quarter. I'm going to go turn that one more turn and see if it brings this out a little bit more. And of course we'll turn this one more turn and see what we get. Alright, so let's give that a measure. I turned it a total of 3 times, so we got an inch there, and it looks like here we have about an inch. So I'm going to turn that just a half a more turn, and that should put this right where I want it. Alright, after turning it a total of 3 times, we have an inch right there where it should be, and we have about an inch there. Yeah, it's pretty much an inch right where it should be. So our vehicle is pretty much in alignment. I'm going to do even better than that. I'm going to go in and check. Let's check the steering wheel, and let's make sure it has not turned on us, because sometimes the steering wheel will like to turn. Yeah, it turned a little bit, so now we got to go and we got to recheck everything here real quick. So let's get this back nice and straight. Okay, one final check here. We got our steering wheel straight, and we got an inch and a 1/16. And we got an inch and a 1/16 there. So this side is really pretty straight. So let's go to the passenger side. And like I said, I made sure that steering wheel was straight in there. So this may have corrected this side too. We got 1 inch there, inch and 1/16. And here we got an inch and 1/16. Wow, so that did it. So my vehicle is pretty much in pretty good alignment until I can get it to a shop down the road. So this is how you do it. I hope this helps you guys out a little bit. So all we have to do now is go underneath and tighten up our nuts. Alright, let's see. Alright, now we're tightening up our last bolt here, our last nut I should say. It's tight. I tell you what, I'm not as young as I used to be, but I can still outrun most 20-year-olds. So there we go. We got this side tight, and I got that side nuts locked down, and I'm pretty happy. And now what we'll do before we finish up here, we'll take this for a spin, but real quick, we'll look at the steering wheel. Nice and straight, and we'll do measurements here real quick. About an inch. And we'll call that about an inch there. And we'll go on the other side. Check it, make sure it didn't move out of adjustment on me any. And about an inch. About an inch and a 1/16, not quite, but same here, about an inch, and maybe a 1/16. So this thing is in really good alignment now. Shouldn't have any more shaking or pulling to the right issue. So let's take it out for a spin, and let me give my final verdict here. All right, kiddos, we're out in the vehicle, and I remember my grandfather, he had a car shop, and they used to do alignments with the string back in the 40s and 50s. And they used to set the cars up on some kind of a rack, and it had bearings underneath the tires, and they could adjust the alignment that way. So hopefully this video will help all of you guys out. Now I'm driving down the highway, and here's a nice little straightaway, and I'll tell you what, look at this. Nice and straight, and it's not pulling, and as you can see, I'm not even touching the steering wheel. Nice, and it's not even shaking anymore, so that really helped out quite a bit. So if you need to do an alignment on your vehicle just long enough to get to the shop, I hope these tips and this instructions will help you out. Like I said, this is not a professional alignment, it's just something to get you by. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'm going to enjoy my shake-free vehicle. And also, one other quick note, make sure you check the air pressure in your tires on both sides, especially in the front. Because if you have one tire a little lower on one side than you do the other side on air pressure, it will cause your vehicle to pull to the one side. I've seen this happen a lot, but the vehicle's doing really good. I'm in a curve right now, but just a little slight right turn there. Before, it was pointing at 2 o'clock when I would drive down the highway, but now you can see it's nice and straight. So I'm very happy. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to head down the highway and enjoy my afternoon with my new alignment. And I have done these hundreds of vehicles I should say, and I have saved thousands and thousands of dollars. So there you go, tip for today. Until my next project, everyone, have a good one. Stay cool because it's hot. It's 90 degrees out there. Woo! I'm headed for where the air is cool. I will talk to you later, and have a good one.